What's up, guys? Instead of having my good friend Henry Cejudo do the intro, I'm going to do the intro myself. This is a fight night I've really been looking forward to. Hopefully my sound is looking good. I have spent the last hour trying to fix the problems that I've been having with my Focusrite Scarlett 2 i2 studio interface. If anyone knows anything about that, please comment below. I'm very close to hitting 1,500 subscribers, which is my first landmark, I guess you could say, for my channel that I've been wanting to hit. And I will be making like a Discord, which is like a group chat which everyone can kind of join, and we can just talk MMA in there. If I hit 1,500, that's the plan. Let's get into the video, man. I'm so excited for this this whole card. We've got my favorite fighter in the roster, Dan Hooker, fighting, man. Really hyped up for that one. Paddy Pimblett as well. We've got Sergei Pablovich making a return after a very long time. Jack Shaw, undefeated prospect. Another undefeated prospect in I guess Mokaev could be in there too. We've got Ilia Topuria on the card as well. Paul Craig as well, top 15 light heavyweights fighting at Nikita Krylov versus Paul Craig. Cannot wait for this card. It's going to be so good, and let's get into the video. What's up, guys? The first fight of the night is one of the fights that I'm the most excited to watch. Mokaev versus Cody Durden. Mokaev signed to the UFC relatively a long time ago, I guess, about a few months ago anyway. Cody Durden just recently beat Ayuri Kaling in a fight which I thought Ayuri Kaling potentially won. I mean, it was a close one, man. But Mokaev called him out after Cody Durden's post-fight speech. He said, "Let me smash this guy on my debut." The UFC obviously gave him that fight. Cody Durden is now fighting Mokaev. Would have loved to see Cody Durden versus Jeff Molina though, because I know that they've got some legitimate beef there too. But I'm gonna respect the pick that Mokaev has been given the fight. If you guys don't know, man, Mokaev, multiple world champion on the amateur scene, 23-0 amateur record. Trains with some great guys over in the UK somewhere. He's got a few wins over this same guy, Ryo Yamaguchi, as well. I think he's got like 2 or 3 wins over him. But this is the competition that he was fighting over in the World Championships here. As you can see, 2019 European Championships, 2018 Junior World Championships. I mean, he won those in 2018. And yeah, man, I just gotta really respect that. He is he's 5-0 officially in his career, but he's actually 6-0. Tapology has this as an exhibition belt because this Hayden Sheriff guy's like 0-9, and is obviously like losing fights for money or something like that. I think that's how they kind of described that issue. But anyway, let's forget about that. Mokaev, what is he good at? He's very good at striking, and he's very good at wrestling as well. He's also got a lot of submission wins as well in his career. Cody Durden, pretty good guy, man. He's got boxing in his background. I think he's actually got a couple of professional pro boxing fights. He's also got a couple of professional kickboxing fights in his record, I believe, as well. And he's also got a good wrestling base. I believe he used his wrestling to beat Ayuri Kaling in that last fight, but that was a close one, man. I do think Mokaev is going to punish Cody Durden on the feet before he gets him to the ground. I think Mokaev is going to choke out Cody Durden probably in the first couple of rounds. I don't know about minus 350 favourite though. I do think that's a little bit wide. I do have money on Mokaev in a parlay though, as a parlay piece, because I'm that confident in this guy. I really do believe in this 22-year-old prospect, 21.5-year-old prospect, and I do think he's going to make it somewhere big. A lot of people picking Mokaev and a lot of people picking him by submission. I do not disagree whatsoever. I love the fact that Mokaev has finally made it to the UFC, although he is so young. I do hope that the UFC continue to build him up, but Cody Durden's going to be a very good test to start off with, so I'm really looking forward to the fight. The second fight of the night, I've also got Nathaniel Wood in that in a different parlay. Nathaniel Wood versus Vince Morales. I just completely gave away who I'm picking. I'm picking Nathaniel Wood to win this fight. And his comeback fight, he hasn't fought in about a year and a half now. He's taken some time off, which I do think is going to benefit the younger fighter. Those 2 losses that he took in his last 3 fights to Casey Kenny, borderline top 15 guy. I think he was in the top 15 at one point. And also John Dodson, who isn't in the UFC anymore, but he is finding some success outside of the UFC. Nathaniel Wood though, last win was to John Castaneda. Showed John Castaneda some levels to this game, man. Dominated John Castaneda bell to bell in that decision win, and that win actually has started to age pretty well. John Castaneda just beat Miles Jones by submission in the 3rd round. He also knocked out Eddie Wineland in the 1st round as well, which I guess is pretty good. He's also got a win over Marcelo Rojo as well, so that win actually has aged pretty well for him. Vince Morales, on the other hand, coming off a couple of wins in the UFC after losing a couple of times. He is an underdog here, but he's also very well rounded. Most of his wins do come by finish, and 6 of them are by knockout, so he's a bit more of a stand-up fighter. He does have very good kickboxing here. I'm going to trust that Nathaniel Wood's just a little bit more well-rounded here. I'm going to go Nathaniel Wood by decision in this fight here. I do think he's just going to outwork Vince Morales a little bit, get takedown if he needs to secure a round as well. But Vince Morales did knock out Lewis Smolka, which I do respect a little bit there. Beat Draco Rodriguez, who is an up-and-coming prospect, relatively new to the UFC, and he's lost a couple of times. He's won a few times in the UFC as well. I'm going to trust that Nathaniel Wood's going to come back. He's going to come back as the favourite, and I do think he's going to win his return to the UFC. I'm going to be picking decision, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we do get some sort of finish on Nathaniel Wood side. And now we've got Elise Reed versus Cory McKenna. Elise Reed, actually the former Cage Fury FC flyweight champion. Actually, no, sorry. Cage Fury FC strawweight champion. Cory McKenna, on the other hand, very young prospect. She got signed into the UFC when I think she was only like 21 years old. After beating Vanessa Demopoulos in a very close decision win, and then she fought Kay Hansen in a very close decision win too. I've actually seen a few comments saying that she lost to Kay Hansen in that one, and in that case it's not really the best win in the world, but she's taken about a year and a half off, and I genuinely believe as such a young fighter she would have made a lot of improvements over that time. On the other hand though, Elise Reed came into the UFC at 4-0 on short notice to fight Sijara Eubanks. Sijara Eubanks kind of showed her a few levels in that one, took her down and ground and pounded her out, made me a bit of money because I put a bit of money on Sijara Eubanks, so thank you Sijara for that one. But yeah, aside from that though, Elise Reed is pretty good. I personally know her more for her ground game because I watched her Hillary Rose fight live actually, where she defended her Cage Fury FC bout over Hillary Rose, but she does have very good stand-up as well. She is a little bit longer and a little bit rangier than Cory McKenna, with just a very slight reach advantage. They're both about the same height as well. Cory McKenna is pretty well-rounded herself as, too, and at only 23 years of age, I do think that she's going to be the one making more improvements. I did see MMA Guru make a hilarious breakdown on how this fight is going to play out. It's actually quite comedic if you watch him, the MMA Guru, but I do pick Cory McKenna still, even though MMA Guru may be pretty confident in Elise Reed. I'm going to go Cory McKenna, finding her team alpha male, so she will be having good training partners. She's very young as well. As I said, she's taken about a year and a half off. She's going to have made a lot of improvements. I don't really like minus 225 at all. I personally don't think this is a fight that you should bet in general. As for Topology picks, a lot of people sleeping on Elise Reed. She's got a very legit chance of locking up a submission on the ground, I think. But I just think Cory McKenna is just going to outwork her a little bit over the course of 3 rounds, just do enough to win. I think it's going to be like a very close, like split decision, maybe unanimous decision, Cory McKenna side. But yeah, I think Cory McKenna is just going to do enough over the 3 rounds to win. But with that being said, it's just going to be a close fight, and it's not really a fight that you can be too confident in. Especially if you're going to be putting money on it as well. But I'm going to be going Cory McKenna. Alright man, we got Jack Shaw versus Timur Valiev. And man, there are some very split opinions on this one. I've seen a lot of people all over Jack Shaw. I've seen a lot of people all over Timur Valiev. I'm on the fence. This is a close fight, man. I really do believe I'm going to pick Jack Shaw to win this fight. I am going to pick the undefeated prospects. I've always kind of had a thing for picking undefeated guys. I guess it kind of just is how it is, but I did pick against Javid Basharat in the last week, which is a pretty bad pick in hindsight. But yeah, Timur Valiev, speaking of Javid, I guess Trevin Jones knocked him out about a year and a half ago, but Timur Valiev was beating him pillar to post in that fight before that happened. He does have an alright win over Martin Day, I guess. Rayoni Barcelos is definitely a fight that I kind of want to talk about as well. That Rayoni Barcelos win, it hasn't really aged as well. I mean, that's a majority decision win, so you've got an argument that fight was actually a draw, and a lot of people did think that the fight was a draw. And that fight hasn't aged that well, considering Victor Henry just put on an absolute showcase against Rayoni Barcelos. But hey man, I guess it is what it is. Jack Shaw, on the other hand, he has been fighting pretty good competition, but at the same time, he just hasn't really been able to fight like the levels of competition that's going to get him to the top 15 with the record that he's got. I mean, Ludovic Sholinian from The Ultimate Fighter, I guess he's alright. I think he was a former Bellator fighter as well. Hunter Ujo split decision, kind of is what it is. It's the same guy that Brian Hallicker knocked out in the second round. But yeah, he hasn't really been fighting the highest level of UFC competition, but he's been fighting the guys that have been put in front of him. I think this is going to be his first test, and I think he's going to pass it. I think that he's just going to be that little bit better than Timur Valiev on the feet. I think he's going to be that little bit better with his wrestling as well. Is he? I don't know. I think he's just going to be that little bit, yeah, because he's a chained wrestler. As soon as he tries to shoot for a takedown, he's going to be grinding for those takedowns. So I think he's going to be able to try and wear out Timur Valiev up against the cage as he's trying to take him down and just work him over the course of the first couple of rounds. And when you've got a tired Timur Valiev, he's going to take him down and work it there. But also I think Timur Valiev is a pretty solid fighter too. 80% picking sure. I've seen a lot of people heavy on Valiev though. A lot of people heavy on Valiev. It's pretty difficult to make a confident pick in this one, but I will be picking Jack Shaw to win. Alright, if we get into the next fight, we're going to my first underdog pick of the night, Paul Craig. I'm picking Paul Craig to win this one, and one of the main reasons why I'm picking him is I just like his fight IQ, to be honest, man. He knows he's good at jiu-jitsu, so what he's going to be trying to do is use that jiu-jitsu. On the other hand though, Nikita Krylov, I do think he's going to have Paul Craig's number on the feet. I do think he also has good takedown defense, but I'm just going to be able to trust Paul Craig to be able to get the fight to the ground. And once the fight does get to the ground, I think that he's going to have a pretty good time. I mean, this is the same guy that submitted Mokaev Ankalaev. Ankalaev really shouldn't have tapped though. That was like at the very last second of the third round. But I guess that win does look pretty good on his record. As for Nikita Krylov, definitely one of the more underrated prospects in the light heavyweight division in the UFC. He did, he fought his UFC debut to Jan Blachowicz. I mean, not a lot of people really get that kind of opportunity for your debut. I mean, this is the man that ended up becoming the champion, and he's got a win over OSP, who's fighting on UFC 274. Split decision loss to Glover Teixeira, your current champion. Decision win over Johnny Walker. That win hasn't really aged that well, but it's still a pretty good win to have on your record, I would say. And yeah, Mokaev Ankalaev as well. Just recently beat Thiago Santos in a alright main event, I guess. But yeah, with that being said, when it comes to the skills of these guys, I do think that Nikita Krylov is going to have a very good stand-up advantage. If he's able to defend the takedowns of Paul Craig, he's going to have a lot of success. But I'm just going to be able to trust Paul Craig's fight IQ. I'm going to trust his knowledge that if he uses his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's going to find success in this fight. And that's what I like about Paul Craig. He knows what he's good at, and that's what he tries to use. He knows he's good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's what he's going to try and do. He's going to be trying to submit Nikita Krylov. I'm going to trust Paul Craig to do that, so I am picking Paul Craig by submission here. Krylov is the favourite for a reason though. He's a very good prospect. The win-loss that he's kind of going on right now, it's kind of favouring the win, if you can kind of look at the record, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm still going to trust the momentum of Paul Craig. The wins that he's had, the Jamal Hill one, which was a kind of weird one, I guess. The Shogun Rua one. Also the one that he had a long time ago over Mokaev Ankalaev as well. I'm going to trust Paul Craig's jiu-jitsu. I'm going to trust him to get the fight to the ground, control the fight from there, and just beat Nikita Krylov that way. Not a lot of confidence though, to be honest, but it's a good fight. It's a good fight I'm looking forward to. Alright, man, a fight I'm looking forward to is Shamil Abdurakimov versus Sergei Pablovich. I have Pavlovich parlayed with Ilia Topuria, and I also have him parlayed in that same parlay. So Ilia Topuria, Sergei Pavlovich, Nathaniel Wood, and also Paddy Pimblett. Just letting you guys know that Artem MMA Analysis parlay, one of them that I've got going. A little bit nervous with the Pimblett side, but apart from that, we're all good. Sergei Pavlovich is obviously my pick. He's coming back after a very long layoff though, 2.5 years, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And also there's unfortunately a decent chance that this fight doesn't even happen with what's going on at the moment, but I hope that it does. And yeah, let's talk about the fight. Shamil Abdurakimov came back after a pretty long layoff to Chris Daukaus only 4 months ago. Chris Daukaus knocked him out on the feet about like 3 times before the fight was finished. Wasn't really the greatest look in the world for Shamil. Sergei Pavlovich, on the other hand, taking a 2.5 year layoff himself. His last win over Maurice Green by knockout. He also knocked out Marcelo Golm, but he also made his UFC debut to Alistair Overeem. It got ground and pounded out by him, but that was a Alistair Overeem that was still kind of fighting top contenders. That was the Alistair Overeem that was trying to make his way back up to a title shot, which would have been legendary if it did, but unfortunately Alexander Volkov decided that he has different ideas for that one there. Sergei Pavlovich is going to have a little bit of a reach advantage, and I do trust him to use that. He's got very good power in his hands. Of his 14 wins, 11 of those wins are by knockout. And Shamil Abdurakimov is a almost 41-year-old man in the heavyweight division. He is ranked. He's definitely ranked higher than Pavlovich is. Coming off 2 knockout losses in a row. I mean, they're very highly spaced between each other. But his knockout loss to Chris Dalkaus only 4 months ago doesn't really fill me with a lot of confidence, to be honest. I'm going to be going Sergei Pavlovich by knockout. So does pretty much all of Tapology. I think this is a pretty safe play as Sergei Pavlovich in general. But Sergei Pavlovich by knockout. How do we know he's going to look when he comes back? That's also another question that we could ask. He's taking a long layoff, but I'm just going to trust him, and I'm going to be trusting that he's been putting in the work. He's a young guy. He's not even 30 years old yet, which is very young for the heavyweight division. I'm going to trust that he's been making changes, improving. Since he's been training out at Eagles MMA Academy, which is a pretty well-known gym in Russia. So I hope that he's going to figure it out, man. I hope that he's going to get better. Hope that he's improved, and hopefully that he beats Shamil in this fight here, because that's my pick for the night. Alright, this next fight that we're going to be taking a look at is, I believe, going to take place primarily on the ground, or at least with some sort of grappling exchanges. We've got Mike Grundy versus Makwan Amirkhani. Mike Grundy coming from more of like a Greco-Roman wrestling sort of style background. Makwan Amirkhani coming from more of like a freestyle wrestling sort of background. Mike Grundy, quite a few wins by submission. Makwan Amirkhani also quite a few wins by submission, as you guys know by now. I just love pointing out his Tapology page. How did this photo even take place, man? That's funny. Unfortunately though, I have actually forgotten how many submission wins these guys each have. 11 for Makwan Amirkhani. Mike Grundy, I think it's like around 9. It's 8. Okay, I was very close to my memory there, but yeah, Mike Grundy, I'm gonna be trusting him to beat Makwan Amirkhani here. So in my opinion on this fight is, I do think that Mike Grundy has a very slight striking sort of advantage in this one here. Both guys have the same reach, but Mike Grundy is a little bit shorter. And I also like Mike Grundy's wrestling style to tire out Makwan Amirkhani. We have seen Amirkhani kind of gas out towards the end of the second and the third round as well. So cardio kind of is a little bit of a problem to be looking at on the Amirkhani side. With that being said though, I think Mike Grundy is going to work him in the first and second round, and I think he's going to be looking for that submission or looking for a finish in the third round, or just riding out of a win. Makwan Amirkhani, he was a guy that a lot of people were looking at one point for whatever SPG Ireland. He was supposed to be SPG Ireland's next big guy. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out for him. He's 1-4 in his last 5. I do think if he loses this one, the UFC is probably going to get rid of him. He's probably going to go to PFL. But yeah, his only win in the last like 2 years is over Danny Hendry. Apart from that, he's been losing. So it's a good competition nonetheless, but he's still been losing anyway. Mike Grundy, on the other hand, he's also on a 2-fight losing streak, but he does have split decision loss to Lando Venata and Movsar Evloev. You can't really laugh at those losses, really. Nathaniel Romani, he finished with punches, and prior to that, he was fighting on the regional scene against good levels of competition as well. I'm going to trust in Mike Grundy to win this fight here. Makwan Amirkhani, I do think, has the better submission threat in the first and second round. I'm going to trust Mike Grundy to use his wrestling and potentially even his submission abilities himself in that third round. But I'm going to go Mike Grundy by decision on this one. So does the majority of people, but I do think that Amirkhani definitely does have at least a chance to lock up a submission in this one here. Going to be going with Mike Grundy to win the fight by decision though. Alright, this next fight, another fight I'm really looking forward to. As I said before, Ilia Topuria is in one of my parlays. I've got a parlay with Ilia Topuria and Muhammad Mokaev is one parlay, and also Ilia Topuria is part of another parlay with Nathaniel Wood, Ilia Topuria, Sergei Pavlovich, and Paddy Pimblett as well. And with that being said, it's pretty obvious that Ilia Topuria is my pick to win this fight. He is a pretty widespread favourite, and it's also definitely worth noting that a lot of people haven't really been pointing out. I've noticed the guys breaking down on YouTube. This fight is taking place at lightweight. Ilia Topuria is a more natural featherweight, I guess you could say, but he did have problems cutting weight to 145 in his last one, and maybe those weight cutting problems were so bad that he's decided to move up a weight class. Personally, I do hope Ilia Topuria does try and figure it out and makes his way back to 145, as I do think he's a much better 145 prospect than 155. But yeah, hopefully he's still a prospect nonetheless. He's good on the feet and he's good on the ground. I'm pretty sure all 11 wins are by finish. I think like 6 submission wins, 5 knockout wins. I am completely wrong. Sorry, 3 KO wins, 7 submission wins, 1 decision win there. Knocked out Ryan Hall in his last one in a pretty impressive performance, I guess you could say. It was just a weird fight. Ryan Hall going for Imanari rolls the whole time. I don't even think he attempted any other kind of takedowns. And Ilia Topuria was able to figure that out, and as Ryan Hall was kind of getting to his feet, he cracked him with a couple of good shots, and then he eventually managed to KO him as well. Jai Herbert, on the other hand, he's 1-2 in the UFC, but this is just because the guy he's good. Jai Herbert is a very good guy. I guess he's a good prospect as well, but he is about 34 years old now. But the guys he's been fighting at a pretty high level. He fought Francisco Trinaldo in his debut, and then he lost to Renato Moicano, who just fought in a couple of pay-per-view cards in a row, actually, and then he beat knocked out Kama Worthy, as quite a few people actually have for Kama Worthy. But apart from that, he was the Cage Warriors champion. So good for him, man. He's fighting our Team Renegade Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Ilia Topuria is an MMA Masters prospect. And in my opinion, Ilia Topuria is going to have a pretty superior ground game. It's worth noting that he's going to be an 8-inch reach advantage for Jai Herbert. He's also going to be a lot taller as well. But Ilia Topuria is very good at closing the distance. He can be very explosive if he wants to close the distance. And I do think once he gets it in close, he's going to have success in the striking. But I do think he's also going to have more success in the grappling. I think that's where Ilia Topuria is probably going to shine in this fight here. Taking Jai Herbert to the mat and looking for a submission there. I don't think it's going to be a first round submission for Ilia Topuria, but I'll pick more like second or third round submission on the Topuria side. As I said though, this fight is taking place at 155, so maybe Jai Herbert's just going to be a little bit too big for him, but I don't think that is going to make too much of a difference in this fight. I think Ilia Topuria is just that good. But with that being said, I do hope Ilia Topuria makes a return back to 145, because I do genuinely believe this is much more natural weight class. But if the weight cut is too bad for him, man, who am I to judge a guy for moving up a weight class, dude? But I do hope that Ilia Topuria makes it back to 145 at some point, sometime soon. So that's my pick. Ilia Topuria inside the distance is probably very safe on this one here. Alright guys, this next fight we're picking Luana Carolina to beat Molly McCann. I genuinely just said it there. A lot of people are picking Molly McCann in this one. I was actually originally on Molly McCann in my my first look at the card, but now that I've kind of sat down, now that I've thought about it, now that I've watched a few fights, I do like Luana Carolina to win this fight here. I like her Muay Thai striking a lot better than I like Molly McCann's stand up. Molly McCann does have like a boxing sort of base on the feet. That's kind of what she likes to use. But Luana Carolina has a kickboxing or a Muay Thai kickboxing background herself, and I think she's got very good stand-up. I think she's got better stand-up than Molly McCann. And one thing that is also worth noting about Luana Carolina is she's got very, very good takedown defense as well. And if she does get taken down, she's very good at working her way back up to the feet. I know it's not really a good fight to make a comparison to, but the Lupita Godinez win was pretty good for Luana. A lot of people were picking Lupita, I believe. And Lupita Godinez was trying to shoot for takedowns. She also did get her down, I think, like at least once or twice. But every time that happened, Luana Carolina was able to get back up to the feet without any issues. But the reason why I say that it's not really that good to look into is Lupita Godinez is a strawweight, so she normally fights at 115 pounds, not 125. But yeah, I still like that one from Luana Carolina. She's a good striker. I think she's a better striker than Molly McCann, and I'm really trusting in that takedown defense. When it comes down to the reach as well, I do like Luana Carolina's reach advantage, and I do think that Luana Carolina probably has like that kind of level of striking that she can utilize that reach over a girl like Molly McCann. 69-inch reach compared to 62 inches. She's also going to be 2 inches taller as well, so she's going to be bigger in the octagon, and I can trust that. It's probably going to be pretty beneficial for her. As of her UFC record, she has actually been in the UFC for about like 3 years now at least. Her wins come over an undefeated girl on the Contender Series by decision. She beat Priscilla Cachoeira, I guess, which I guess that win is kind of aged relatively well, but not really. I lost to Ariane Lipsky in the first round because Ariane Lipsky was able to get her to the ground and utilize her jiu-jitsu that way. But apart from that, man, she's been relatively good girls on the regional scene. She was meant to fight Sajara Eubanks. I think Eubanks probably would have been strong enough to take her to the ground, but I am going to be picking Luana Carolina to win this fight here. Molly McCann, though, she does have a pretty good, like, well-rounded game. She's got that boxing base. She also is pretty good utilizing some takedowns if she really needs it. She beat Ji-Yeon Kim, and that win kind of has aged relatively well, considering Ji-Yeon Kim just beat Priscilla Cachoeira. in my opinion, anyway. She did lose to Lara Procopio and Tyler Santos. Like, those are two losses you do not laugh at. You don't laugh at Tyler Santos. She's just getting a title shot right now as well, so you can't laugh at that win. Loss, I mean, sorry. Diana Belbita win as well is alright. Like, Diana Belbita is a girl that UFC is trying to push as like a prospect, I guess. Ariana Lipsky win as well. I mean, she's beaten the girl that has beaten Luana Carolina. But I'm going to go with Luana Carolina. She's a slight underdog, I think. I think money might come in on the Carolina side, but it is women's MMA, and I don't really know too many people that like to bet big money on women's MMA. But, yeah, Luana Carolina. I'm going to be picking her as like a slight underdog. I do think she's just going to be a little bit better than Molly McCann on the feet. I think she's going to be a bit better than Molly McCann on the feet, sorry. And I think she's going to have good enough takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet. So, that's my... Alright, man, we've got the next fight, the return of Gunny. A lot of people are calling it the return of Gunnar Nelson. After taking a little bit of a layoff of about 2.5 years, his last losses to Gilbert Burns. Before that, he lost a split decision to Leon Edwards, and before that, he lost to Santiago Ponzinibbio, which is about 5 years ago now, which is pretty crazy, man. But yeah, let's talk about the fight. I am picking Gunnar Nelson, but I'm not picking him like minus 350 confidence, to be honest with you guys. Alex Oliveira hurt him on the feet. I think he actually dropped him on the feet as well at one point. Alan Joban as well. I guess that win was from 5 years ago, so it kind of is what it is. But Takashi Sato, my guy, of his 2 wins in the UFC, both of them by knockout. This guy does have power in his hands. One of them is over Jason Witt, though, who has kind of proven to us that he does have absolutely no chin whatsoever. But apart from that, though, he did ground and pound Ben Saunders after knocking him down. And apart from that, so many round 1 knockouts. 11 wins by knockout, and look how many of these are early in the first round. I mean, this guy, I think if Takashi Sato is to win, it's going to be in the first round, and it's going to be by knockout. If Gunnar Nelson is going to win, it's going to be in the second round or the third round by submission. Either way, I don't really see this fight going the distance, to be honest. I do like Takashi Sato as a big underdog. I do think that there's a lot of like, if someone was telling me that they were picking Takashi Sato on this fight because Gunnar Nelson, we don't know how he's going to look after such a long layoff, I would really respect that pick. I think Gunnar Nelson, I mean, some people talk about rage rust, ring rust existing or not existing. I think Gunnar Nelson is going to eat a big shot from Takashi Sato, and it's kind of going to wake him up, and he's going to realize that he's in an MMA fight, and he's really got to work in this one here. So yeah, I think Takashi Sato is going to have success in the feet in the first round, but I think after that, Gunnar Nelson, as we all know, world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do think he's going to be able to potentially utilize that world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the second and third round, after Takashi Sato does find some success in the first. Gunnar Nelson by decision or by submission is my pick. If you're picking Sato, you're picking Sato by round 1 KO. But I would really respect a Takashi Sato pick anyway. But yeah, Gunnar Nelson's my pick. I mean, his last 2 losses have aged like very well. Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, like top 3, top 5 prospects in this last 2 losses. Santiago Ponzinibbio in the top 15 right now. I mean, 4 years later even, and at the time that was a surging Santiago Ponzinibbio. So yeah, I'm going Gunnar Nelson. I'm not really minus 350 confident though, but I'm still picking Gunnar Nelson. Takashi Sato coming in on short notice. He's not going to have the cardio to go second and third rounds with a guy that's going to be trying to take him down. But if he is to win, it's going to be a first round. It's going to be first round and then by knockout, in my opinion. So yeah, Gunnar Nelson is my pick, just to clarify at the end of that one. Alright guys, let's talk about this next fight. We've got Paddy Pimblett versus Rodrigo Vargas. Would it be a controversial opinion to say that this is a set-up fight for Paddy Pimblett to win in London? Because I genuinely don't believe it will be. We've got Rodrigo Vargas is almost 37 years old. He does have relatively good regional wins, but he is only 1-2 in the UFC. And the guys that he's lost to are pretty good, but he did beat Brock Weaver, but he got disqualified due to an illegal knee, so it kind of is what it is. Zhu Rong, though, he did beat Zhu Rong by decision. Barely, though, because Zhu Rong kind of didn't even show up to fight in that fight, especially in the first round. Paddy Pimblett, though, got hurt in the first round by Luigi Vendramini, bounced back and knocked him out, so you can kind of respect that debut. He's got a lot of hype behind him, and that's one thing I'm a little bit worried about. I'm a little worried about the hype behind this guy. I'm hoping that he doesn't buy into that hype too much, and hopefully that he doesn't overlook a guy like Rodrigo Vargas, who does have some sort of power on the feet. He's kind of a weird sort of striker. He's more of like a wrestler, but he's not. It's so difficult to kind of explain what Rodrigo Vargas is going to try and bring to the table. But I think Paddy Pimblett and Rodrigo Vargas are going to bang it out on the feet, and it's going to be very interesting stand-up, especially because Paddy Pimblett kind of just keeps his chin up, and he says that his Scousers don't get knocked out, but this is the same guy that has been knocked down multiple times on the regional scene. I mean, at one point, there was a guy that almost knocked him out on the regional. He hasn't lost by knockout, but he has been dropped multiple times on the regional scene for sure. So hopefully that doesn't happen in this one here. Paddy Pimblett though did get hurt in his first fight, as I said. That's one thing I am worried about, that he overlooks a guy like Rodrigo Vargas, but hopefully he doesn't. He's a minus 400 favourite on this one here. I don't think the odds should be that wide. But it is Paddy Pimblett, so I guess there's a lot of hype on him. I guess there's a lot of money coming in on his side as well. He's definitely expected to win as well. They're putting him in the featured fight position here, and they're putting him on the main card of UFC London. I don't know if this is going to be in an arena with fans. I do think it is, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. With that being said, yeah, Paddy Pimblett's submission though I think is key to victory. Hopefully he shows some good fight IQ and takes the fight to the ground and utilizes his submission skills and gets the submission win over Rodrigo Vargas. That's what I'm predicting. I'm a little bit worried though that he's going to try and stand and trade with Vargas, and I don't know how good of an idea that truly will be. But it does have good stand-up as well. It just kind of keeps his chin open. I just don't really want to see Rodrigo Vargas check him with a big shot and just completely kill the hype and completely kill my parlay as well. So Paddy Pimblett by submission is my pick, mainly because I do believe he's getting set up to beat a guy like Rodrigo Vargas, 36 years old in the UFC. Not the most active guy in the world either. Like, he doesn't fight that often, so yeah, Paddy Pimblett is my pick. Paddy Pimblett probably has also got enough money to be able to be training full time on his current UFC contract, especially considering he's got so much hype around him. So yeah, I'm going to be trusting that as well. So Paddy Pimblett, first round submission, I think, end of the first round, maybe even like end of the second round, but by submission is my pick. Alright, this next fight, Arnold Allen versus Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker opened as like a very slight favourite for this fight, and personally, like as a massive fan of Dan Hooker, I don't really know why. I feel like Arnold Allen should be the favourite, and I should be picking Dan Hooker as an underdog. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty controversial take, and I know a lot of people are not going to like it, and a lot of people are probably going to comment on this video completely disagreeing with me. But I am actually going to be picking Dan Hooker to win this fight here. And one of the main reasons is Arnold Allen was outlanded almost 2-1 by Sadiq Yusuff in his last fight, and I'm just going to trust the city kickboxing experience. I'm going to trust the kickboxing experience of Dan Hooker to utilize that. So you look to UFC stats of Arnold Allen, and you look at his last fight. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Actually, he was outlanded more than 2-1 by Sadiq Yusuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to trust. He did beat the crap out of Gilbert Melendez on the feet, though. He did beat up Nick Lentz on the feet as well. But I mean, if he wants to, he takes the fight to the ground. But if he doesn't take the fight to the ground. Like, that's the kind of the thing that's so good about Arnold Allen, is he's very well rounded, and he's able to. He's a mixed martial artist for sure. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. He's good. Like, he's good everywhere. He knows that he's good everywhere, and he can kind of mix it all together. When it comes to Dan Hooker, though, he hasn't looked amazing in his last couple of fights. I mean, he did look alright against Nasrat Haqparast, but then he bounced back straight away for a big paycheck against Islam Makhachev. I think he went into that fight knowing he was actually going to lose, so that's why he had such a big performance. But with that being said, he didn't tap, and he didn't verbally tap either, so, I mean, kind of is what it is, really. But I don't think he would have won the fight anyway. I don't think Dan Hooker even thought he was going to win either. But with that being said, though, his losing streak, though, to Dustin Poirier, this is the thing that hurts me so much about Dan Hooker, man. You watch that second round against Dustin Poirier. You watch the end of the second round against Dustin Poirier. 10 more seconds and Dan Hooker will be holding a win over Dustin Poirier, and probably be fighting for a title after that win, which is absolutely insane. But it didn't quite work out. And then he got knocked out by Michael Chandler in his debut, which really sucks because Michael Chandler went on to fight for a belt. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, Dan Hooker is always trying to chase that belt. He always seems to be like one fight away from winning, from getting a title shot, and it seems like he doesn't see a title shot in his 155 future. So he's moved down a weight class to 145. Very concerning cut, I would say. I mean, he didn't have too much success cutting earlier on, especially early on in his UFC career. He was losing to not the best competition in the world, but he was beating some pretty good competition as well. He had a lot more success when he went up to 155, but now as a 32-year-old, he's going to be cutting down to 145, and I do have some concern about that one, but he has done a test cut already, so we do know that he can make the weight, and he can make the weight relatively healthily. So yeah, I'm going to be trusting Dan Hooker to do that. As it comes to the stand-up, though, I know Arnold Allen is very fast, and I know Arnold Allen was going to be trying to throw some volume and probably shoot for a couple of takedowns if he wants. And also, one thing I know is Arnold Allen doesn't have a knockout win in the UFC, but I am very well aware of Arnold Allen's power. He has sat down opponents in the UFC in the past. He sat down Sadiq Youssef, he sat down Jordan Ronaldo, and he also sat down Yaltin Meza with a knockdown, that is, by the way. And so I know that he's got the power to potentially knock down, hopefully not knock out Dan Hooker, man. That would suck for his 145 return, I guess, but this is a big fight. I do believe that Arnold Allen wins this fight. The stock that he's going to have is definitely what he deserves. I feel like he's gone under the radar for the longest time now, but Dan Hooker is a pretty well-known guy now, and unfortunately he's more of a, he's been put in the journeyman category, but I still kind of do have some faith in him to beat relatively good guys in the top 15. I think Arnold Allen, unfortunately, man, I think that Arnold Allen's not quite gonna get Dan Hooker out of there, man. I do trust Dan Hooker to outstrike Arnold Allen on the feet. Maybe even if he wants to, he could go for a takedown. I'm just going to be trusting in Dan Hooker to be utilizing a strike in. He's very good. He's very slow, though. That's the thing about Dan Hooker. He's a relatively slow starter. He likes to make reads on his opponents, and he's also a slow finisher as well, because we have seen in the past, and like the end, and like especially with Dustin Poirier fight at the end of that, he gassed out. He didn't gas against Nasrat really, but that was a very short notice fight and didn't look too amazing in the third round. But neither did Nasrat either. Big height and big reach advantage for Dan Hooker, a guy that I do believe has the kickboxing pedigree to utilize it, and he's also got very good knees. Knocked out Ross Pearson pretty brutally with a knee in a fight that I watched live in the arena. I think that there's a lot of respect to be had on the Allen side, and I do respect everyone picking Arnold Allen, and I do think that a lot of money is going to come on the Arnold Allen side. He's definitely going to become the favorite if he hasn't already, and I respect that. I understand that. But Dan Hooker, man, he's my favorite fighter, guys. He is my favorite fighter, and I really find it difficult to pick against him. I picked Islam Makhachev to beat him. I picked him to beat Nasrat Haqparast. I did pick him to beat Michael Chandler, but he was the favorite in that fight, and in hindsight kind of threw me off. But yeah, I'm going to be trusting Dan Hooker in this one. Hopefully Allen doesn't just chin him like I'm worried he's going to, but I'm picking Dan Hooker. He's a good fighter. His win over Dustin Poirier still is in my heart. It is still in my heart. He didn't win the fight, but man, he was so close to finishing Dustin Poirier, and I still hold that very highly. Maybe I just need to move on. That was a long time ago. It was almost 2 years ago now, but I still hold that pretty highly. I do think that Dan Hooker, hopefully he makes a good return to 145. He's my pick, man. I'm from New Zealand. I can't really pick against these guys, but I have picked against these guys in the past. Obviously, I picked Mike Mithy to lose his debut. Like, I'm not that biased, but Arnold Allen, man, I don't know. I just don't like the fact that he got outlanded by Sadiq Youssef in that fight. So, yeah, I'm going to be trusting Dan Hooker to win that one. And, yes, that's my pick. Dan Hooker to hopefully upset Arnold Allen in this fight. And I'm really hyped for it. Like, I really am. So, hopefully Dan Hooker, man. Don't let me down, buddy. Alright, man. The main event of the evening. Alexander Volkov versus Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, a very, very good prospect in the heavyweight division for sure. 4 wins in the UFC. 4 finishes in the UFC, knocked out Sergei Spivak in a win that has aged pretty well, submitted Andrei Arlovski in a win that has aged pretty well, knocked out Alan Badeau. I mean, is what it is. Knocked out Jake Collier, and Jake Collier's come back with a win as well over Chase Sherman, and prior to that he was just fighting over at Cage Warriors, beating guys on the regional scene. But Tom Aspinall, man, his wins have aged well, and I feel like that's one of the more important things about this guy, is his wins have aged pretty well. He's fighting the biggest opponent in his career, Alexander Volkov, who stands at 6'7" with an 81-inch reach, and he recently put on a lot of weight. Like, this is a guy that is weighing in about 260 pounds. At one point he was weighing in about 230 pounds, so he's really made that commitment to heavyweight, put on a bit of weight, put on a bit of muscle, and here he is fighting at the top of the heavyweight division. Very, very good kickboxer. Alexander Volkov had a relatively competitive fight with Cyril Gunn, where he won one of those rounds in the kickboxing aspect of it. and he knocked out Alistair Overeem and Alistair in an upset, because, well, not really an upset, but Alistair Overeem was kind of hyped up to potentially have another title run in him. When he finished off Alistair Overeem, it kind of crushed that there. Knocked out Walt Harris, who slept Sergei Spivak in like under a minute, I think. And also Curtis Blades beat him. His loss to Derek Lewis as well, who's like number 3, 4, 5 in the world right now. He was beating Curtis Blades on the feet until he was beating Derek Lewis on the feet until Derek Lewis ended up knocking him out at the end of the 3rd round. Tom Aspinall, though, he hasn't fought this level of competition. He has said in an interview before that he doesn't think he's ready for this level of competition, so he can kind of have some sort of hesitancy to picking him because of that, but I'm trusting Tom Aspinall, man. He's so fast, he's got such good boxing, he's been training with Team Fury, so that probably means that he's been sparring with Tyson Fury, right? He's been training boxing with Team Fury. He's also got a pretty good wrestling game as well. I mean, he kind of just like spear tackled Andrei Arlovsky up against the cage and then submitted him, so I guess that was pretty cool, and showed that he does have some sort of wrestling. But I do think most of the fight is going to be taking place on the feet. Tom Aspinall is just going to have to be faster than Alexander Volkov, because Alexander Volkov likes to kind of stand there. He likes to pick his shots. He's not the fastest heavyweight in the world. He's not a Cyril Gane. He's not a Tom Aspinall either. Like, Tom Aspinall is very fast on the feet, and he is able to land with power if he lands, and he's quite aggressive as well. He comes forward and he lands those power shots. I do like Tom Aspinall to win this fight here. He is a underdog for a reason, though, because Alexander Volkov is so experienced. Alexander Volkov has been there with some of the best fighters in the world. Yes, I did just see that my computer just completely decided not to work. Yeah, Volkov's been in there with some of the best fighters in the world for the last like 5 or 6 years. Alexander Volkov, if he wants to win this fight, I think he's going to have to slow it down, keep Tom Aspinall at range, and start picking him apart from range, with that range advantage, with that height advantage as well. But if Tom Aspinall wants to win, I think he's going to have to not necessarily run in, but I think he's going to have to be a bit more aggressive. He's going to have to be able to close in the distance, even though they kind of are both sort of the same size, really. But Alexander Volkov's a massive dude. You got to consider that too. Close up the distance a little bit, land his boxing, land his power shots, land those shots that he's knocking out good guys with, like Sergei Spivak, Alan Badeau, Jake Collier. I mean, he knocked out Jake Collier pretty bad, to be honest, and that was pretty awesome, I guess. But yeah, Tom Aspinall by knockout, man. Probably in one of the first rounds. I think Alexander Volkov might be able to take over towards the end of the fight if we are going the distance. I don't think we are. I think Tom Aspinall is going to be able to use some aggression here. Hopefully he uses some aggression. Hopefully he closes up the distance and to get into boxing range with Alexander Volkov, and ends up landing with a big shot. That's my pick for Tom Aspinall, and hopefully he gets the job done.